What's the level of gridlock right now, Minister, in terms of dealing with 9% inflation?
Well, it's a huge challenge, Tom, and you will know that it's a global challenge. We had a pandemic, we had lockdowns right across the world. We had a huge surge in demand when those lockdowns were eased, and now we've got this unprecedented situation in Ukraine, first time in 70 years, 75 years, that we are seeing an actual war in Europe. So these are unprecedented times. And the British government has very much decided to help consumers, help people in the UK. We had a good announcement from the Chancellor in February about the kind of help that he was willing to give. And he and the Prime Minister have said that they are looking to help people more.
Let's talk about that and whether the consumer, the people of the UK are feeling that right now. Kwasi, you wrote a letter recently to petrol retailers about the concerns that the Chancellor's 5p fuel duty cut wasn't being passed on in any visible or meaningful way. What's the response been?
Well, we're looking at that still. I mean, I think it's very wrong of petrol, the forecourts, not to pass on the reduction. And I think, you know, we're seeing that there's some behaviour change, but there's a lot more they could do. And I'm very keen that they actually help out.
And yet you're against the windfall tax. Why is that?
I've been always against windfall tax. I think they're arbitrary. I think they discourage investment. And when you look at the companies that invest in the North Sea, you know, it's a very cyclical business. So when they make money, they tend to make a lot of money, and then when they lose, they make big losses, and they're not supported when they do make those losses.
You've talked about investment in the UK, and you're worried that it would deter investment. Bernard Looney of BP said to the Times earlier this month, he was asked basically whether he'd change any spending plans because of a windfall tax, and he said, quote, "There are none that we wouldn't do." Isn't that good news? That you can do this, that he won't change his spending plans? He's telling you.
Well, it's up to I mean, you can speak to Bernard directly yourself. I'm not quite sure what he was referring to, but there's no doubt that other players in the industry say that any kind of windfall tax would deter future investment. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And they need fiscal certainty. They don't want rabbits out of the hat, so to speak.
Well, BP's telling us the opposite. I just wanted to jump in with something the Chancellor said too. The Chancellor said, what I want to see is significant investment back into the UK economy to support jobs, to support energy security, and I want to see that soon. If that doesn't happen, then no options are off the table. Now, as you know, Kwasi, the prudent response from any Chancellor is not to take things off the table ahead of a budget.
Exactly right.
But I want your view on that. I want some goals. I want to understand what kind of investments you want to see from these players and over what time frame, because if we're going to wait for these guys, they've got a 10-year time horizon for their spending plans. We'll be out a decade and then we'll say, oh, OK, maybe we should do a windfall tax now. What's the time frame? How much spending do you want to see over what time?
We want to see spending. I'm not going to quantify it, but we want to see actual real spending. And there's evidence that they're doing that. I mean, if you look at our program for carbon capture, blue hydrogen production, both Shell and BP are directly involved in that in the northeast of our country, of England. And they can see that there is a huge opportunity in terms of green investment. And that's exactly what the Chancellor, the kind of investment the Chancellor wants to see. And as you say, the Chancellor's quite right to say, all options are on the table. Every Chancellor I've known since I've been an MP has always said that. There's no way that he's going to take options off the table ahead of the budget.
Dr. Kwarteng, you enjoy a PhD in economic history from a small shop, the University of Cambridge. You know the history of this, and the simple history is windfall profit taxes do not work, period. It's well documented. But as John alludes to, there is a generational trust that has been broken between corporate elites and the people. How do you guarantee, given the lack of trust, a process here that helps the people of the United Kingdom?
So that's why the Chancellor was very clear, Tom, that they have to invest in the UK. We want to see their ambitions realised by their investment.
Do you need it in writing? Is it so urgent that it needs to be codified, to be in writing?
I think the commitments are already there. I'm not sure that we need any kind of legal document or quasi-legal document. But what they understand is that these new technologies, the decarbonisation, all of that stuff needs investment, and it actually creates jobs. And you will also know that we're very interested, very focused on levelling up. That's actually giving opportunity to areas of our country in the UK, which in the last few years, few decades, have been underinvested. And so BP and Shell and others know that our commitment to levelling up and our commitment also to decarbonisation mean that business investment needs to happen, and they're very aware of that. And they also know, as the Chancellor said, that if they don't step up to that plate, then they could well be subject to a windfall tax.
Because
I think that's a reasonable conversation.
Just a final question, sir. Just on the final point, to understand what people are going through right now, if they listen to this conversation, you've got a company, BP, engaged in buybacks. I'm not here to say that's the wrong thing. They've referred to themselves as a cash machine when oil prices are climbing like they are. You've got the CEO who's saying he wouldn't change his spending plan if he faced a windfall tax. And we've got the government saying, we don't want to do that. You're saying that. Do you understand how deeply uncomfortable that might be for people who can't pay their energy bills this month?
Look, it's really difficult, but the investment actually helps people. People have pension plans. They want to have jobs. They want to have energy security. So I can't, as an energy minister, say, please invest in our energy security of supply, but by the way, I'm going to give you a windfall tax. That doesn't make sense. In order to protect energy supply, we need investment. And in order to have investment, we need a stable fiscal situation. We can't simply just threaten people with or have arbitrary windfall taxes. Having said all of that, as you know, the Chancellor of the Exchequer is responsible for the budget, and he's not taking any options off the table.
And he wouldn't be the first Chancellor to do it, as you know, because we could go back to the Conservative Chancellor of 1981, who did something similar. Kwasi, thank you.